Instantiate is a function used to create clones of game objects. This is commonly used in the context of cloning a prefab. A prefab is simply a pre-configured object saved in the project's assets. One such example might be firing rockets from a bazooka. Each of the rockets would need to be instantiated into the game world so that it can be fired. In this example, we're using fire1 to trigger an instantiate function. The most basic form of instantiate simply takes one parameter, the object that we wish to clone. In this example, we've created a public variable called rocket prefab, and we're passing this into the instantiate command. However, this means that the prefab will be instantiated at its default position, which is 0. And in our example, that position is the center of the world and the center of where the bazooka is at the moment. So when we press play, those rockets appear at the center of the bazooka. Instead, we want to fire it like a rocket, so it needs to appear to be coming from the barrel of our bazooka. For this, we need a slightly different version of Instantiate. This version of Instantiate takes 3 parameters. The object to be instantiated, in our case the rocket prefab, and then a position and rotation to give our new clone of the prefab. For this, I've created an empty game object that's been positioned in front of the bazooka's barrel. We are using this by creating a public variable called barrelEnd, and we use this component's position and rotation values as those for the new clone of our rocket prefab. So by dragging and dropping this new empty location to my script in the inspector, I can receive the transform position and rotation by making use of the barrelEnd variable. So when I press play and press fire, the rocket appears in the right place, but it just kind of drops, which is not what we want. We need to be able to affect the object that's created by our instantiation, i.e. the clone of the rocket. As standard, Instantiate returns a type called object, but in order to fire our rocket, we're going to change that type to a rigid body. To do this, we use asRigidBody after the Instantiate call, and store the returned value in a rigid body variable, which we'll call rocketInstance. So here we set up a rigid body variable called rocketInstance, and we set that variable equal to our Instantiate function's return. Then, given that this is now a rigid body, we can use our variable rocketInstance and address anything within the rigid body class, for example, add force. And again we can make use of the transform barrelEnd to grab the direction at which we want to add a force. And we can multiply by a certain amount. So now when I press play and fire, my rockets are fired off into the distance by adding a force to the clone that I create. Bear in mind that when you create many clones within the game, those things will still exist within your scene. So if doing something like this, you may want to consider writing a script which removes them from the world after a certain amount of time. Here, my prefab has a rocket destruction script which simply removes the object after 1.5 seconds.